Hey everyone, we are back at the GPeC conference here in Moldova, and next to me is a performance marketer and a paid media specialist.
Yes.
His name is Jon Quinton. He has more than 13 years experience in the field, and he has founded the Overdrive Digital Agency in 2016.
Yep.
Hi John, welcome to Moldova.
Hey.
I hope you like it here at the conference, and maybe
brilliant.
you made some new contacts here.
Yeah, no, it's been really good so far. Like, it's a great event. Seems like a really good city, although hoping to explore a little bit.
What did you discover from talking, if you spoke to any Moldovan e-commerce entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think the main kind of learning is that it's so new here comparatively to like the UK.
Exciting new?
Or the US. Yeah, I think like how cool is it to be in a, for us anyway in the UK, it's been such a well-developed sector. Like how cool is it to be in a market where it's new and fresh and like there's all the opportunities ahead. I think that's really exciting.
And you can look at all the markets. You can look at UK, you can look at the US, China, and you can go, that's not very good for us. We're going to do something else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can apply whatever someone else did or change it.
Yep.
And then you can come up with something new.
Yep.
So do you think developing countries such as Moldova, do we have this opportunity? Do we have this talent needed to come up with something new?
Yeah, definitely. I think you've got. That's a really good advantage, isn't it? Because you can take a look at more developed markets and go, well, actually, do you know what? That's really good. That maybe not. I really like that. Not so keen on that. And you can get inspiration from other markets and do it in your own way. Obviously, your audiences will be really different here. Their needs will be different. Their buying journeys will be different.
A bigger challenge, right?
Yeah, massively so. And we were talking to someone last night about how it's really common for an e-com transaction here to be paid for in cash.
Yep. We like cash, man.
But like the logistics of that in the UK, like it's just it would be unthinkable to people
Really?
that you pay in cash for an e-commerce transaction.
Or paying on delivery, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It just doesn't happen. So I think obviously extremely different market.
Do you think that's a
environment.
bad thing that we're still doing it?
No, I mean, no. It's just different, isn't it? I guess from a attribution point of view, that's tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you've got an online experience with what is technically an offline transaction, it's cash, like making sure that tracks back nicely is tricky.
Yeah.
I could just see challenges with shipping. If you turn up, they're not there, the cash doesn't come through, so like cash flow potentially harder.
I mean, who doesn't like risks, right?
Exactly.
From
Exactly.
your experience running your agency and your general experience with e-com, how has consumer behavior changed in the past like 5-6 years? Someone said earlier that a few years ago you could have just posted a picture of your product and that would have been enough. Now you have to tell stories around it. You have to pay reviewers to do that.
Yeah, it's I think if you're asking like change in the last 5 years, we've obviously got this massive thing, the pandemic, in the middle of that, and I think it's weird, like almost look at pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. Pre-pandemic was also the iOS 14 rollout on Facebook ads, so Facebook ads were much easier to get working. E-commerce was a bit less competitive in certain sectors, so there was a lot more kind of smaller operations scaling up rapidly and profitably.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now that's much harder. I think a lot of the pandemic changed everything really in a way, didn't it? And so many businesses suddenly went online, from physical stores to online, and the environment changed a lot, so it's now a lot more competitive.
Yep.
Ads are more expensive as a result of that. I don't necessarily think there's been huge shifts in consumer behavior as such.
You don't think we've become more spoiled? Because there's so many companies fighting to sell us the product, right?
Yeah, possibly.
Like look at running shoes. You can buy running shoes
nice.
from whoever you want.
Yeah.
Everyone has good running shoes.
Yep.
You know why I buy these? Because I saw a video of the marketing director who was asked, because they have many colorful shoes.
Yep.
So they asked him, what is your favorite shoe color? And he said, dirty.
Really?
My favorite shoe color is dirty, and that made the sale for me. I was like, I want to buy shoes from this guy.
That's really cool. That's a really cool piece of creative, isn't
Right?
it? Yeah, that's really good.
So after that, I've stopped washing my shoes. The
a good
running shoes. I mean.
excuse.
Yeah, like look, the guy that makes it says don't wash it. So
Yeah, that's
so
perfect.
after that, how can I look at a brand? I don't know, no disrespect, but something like Adidas or anything
Yeah.
that's just a massive corporation that just
Yeah.
pumps and pumps and pumps.
Yeah,
That's something. Maybe we've become spoiled from.
possibly spoil. One of the things actually on that point was I don't know how it translated here, but in the UK there was almost, when the pandemic hit, there was a big drive to support local business, and I think a lot of people started to, if they had a choice between, I could buy that shoe from a small D2C brand that's really trying to do something different, or I could go to the supermarket and buy the same shoe, I'll get it from that small shop because I'm going to support a small business. And there was a big kind of
It's like the presidents and prime ministers have been fighting to nationalize economy, and then COVID started, and everyone's like, "I'm going to support my own local business."
yeah, exactly. But that actually, I think that's a really positive mindset shift, and people probably spending, or you get a lot of people who will try and avoid corporations like Amazon, so they don't pay tax in the country or whatever, and prefer to buy from smaller specialist.
Even if it's more
stores.
expensive, right?
Sometimes,
Because you understand that pays their paycheck, the bills and stuff.
pays the bills. It helps a small business grow, and that's just a really good thing, isn't it?
So
if there's a problem, you're going to talk to someone who really knows the product.
after the pandemic ended, because we can consider it over now.
Yeah.
Did this behavior change, or is it still supporting in the UK? I mean, is it
It's
still
definitely
supporting local
tailed off a
business?
little bit
Mhm.
because then suddenly the convenience of
It's like,
buying.
I like Adidas again. I want to buy Adidas.
Yeah, but it's definitely remained
Mhm.
a little bit at least, and it's definitely changed my buying habits a little bit for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, for someone in a developed country,
Yeah.
such as UK, I know we're both not members of the EU, and that makes us equal.
Don't talk about that.
What would be the first tough challenges that you have to you encounter when you with your online store? When you have a product, it's been selling fine, more brick and mortar store. You're trying to do it online. What's the first challenges you face?
We've worked with a number of brands that have been in that scenario where historically they're a brick and mortar traditional retailer, and then they launch their e-com. And I think the biggest thing is the biggest mistake they make often is they still try to manage it in the same way, or they try and merchandise it in the same way, and they assume that their customers will want the same type of service in the same way, and it's an entirely different thing, So that's the first thing. Often, if people have been used to running historically, if it's been a brick and mortar physical store, like the marketing channels are totally different. The budgets for marketing are completely different. The cost of acquiring a customer is completely different. The lifetime value is probably very different as well. So
You can have a great salesman, and it fixes all your problems, right?
yeah, exactly. And this, and a lot of people suddenly realize, it doesn't quite work like that. So, as with many things, I think the biggest challenge is probably a mindset shift, in terms of how you approach the business and market the business and grow it. So, yeah.
Okay. But how would you give advice to people in the trying to break through competition? What's a good approach to differentiating your product? Since we were talking about shoes, everyone's selling shoes. How would you stand out? What would you suggest?
I think you really have to look at your doing something totally different with your creative, and you can take inspiration from competitors, but so many people look at their competitors and for just purely for inspiration, and not what are they not doing. Like, what can we do that, like getting the CMO in the ad, that's great because you've got someone with really good authority in the business who's happy to go on an ad and talk about the product. That's different. Not many brands do that. Not many.
So
CMOs
don't go,
do that.
I saw them do this, I should do that as well.
Yeah, you can.
Sometimes it works, but
Yeah.
if there's 100 gas stations in your area, don't open another
try
gas
something
station.
totally
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
Try something completely different. Try advertising it offline, or there's all sorts of different things you can do, isn't there? But I think it's about getting that marketing different. That's a good example.
When your agency invested $50,000 in the development of an e-commerce business,
Yeah.
what was the main insights that you took from it?
Yeah, there is still a decent pot of that money left. So
That's good.
yeah, which is really
Didn't
good.
burn it all up.
No, which is very easy to do on an e-com
Yeah.
project, right? Because you have to get the traffic in to learn without completely rinsing your cache,
Making Google rich.
without making or Meta. But I think the biggest learning was quite how much work you have to do to get a bit of traffic to convert. Because historically, as an agency, we'll work with brands that are established, they've got a track record of sales, that all of that type of stuff. And for anyone who's working in an agency environment who's not, that's entirely different to launching something from scratch.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's going to work. You don't know what the deal is. You just don't know. And the amount of pace of change that you have.
So
to
should you
go
approach
through.
it at a crawling pace, or should you just try to make jumps?
I think you have to spend a certain amount of money to get a certain amount of data, which will then inform your next decisions. I think you have to be, but it's a massively fine balance. I think with the example I was talking about today, the potentially in hindsight, what we'd have done differently was probably focus a bit more on organic channels in the mix as well, because we knew the conversion rates would be a struggle because the regulations are highly, it's not technically a legal product, right? To ride on public land. So organic should have been a bigger part of that mix, but you have to be able to adapt and adjust. And
So basically, try to look at your product from a third-party perspective and see what's good and what's bad about it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and spend enough to learn, but not too much to that you completely throttle your efforts.
Thank you, John. Thank you for coming here.
Pleasure.
For
Thanks so much
sharing
for
your
having me.
experience and for coming to Moldova to talk with our entrepreneurs and tell them how things work as from the agency side in the UK.
Well, hopefully it was useful. And really nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. Nice meeting you too.